Bismillah, walhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala Sayyidina Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. As you guys can see, I am not home. I didn't make it home in time, so I'm going to be doing this from the car. Can you guys see me and see the screen? Please let me know if you guys can see both. Okay. So I have my brother having the screen open from my laptop, which I left at home. But hopefully you guys can see me clearly as well. So then this should work out perfectly fine, inshallah. Is the volume clear as well? Let me just make sure before we begin. Somebody could just let me know. Okay, Jazakallah khair. Perfect. So let us begin, inshallah. The mas'ala that we left off at, that we will be starting with today, deals with wiping on socks, the different types of socks that a person can wipe on. The first thing that we will talk about is the different types, and then we'll get into the conditions that are required for you to wipe on these socks. So the first thing is leather socks. Leather socks, this is number 22. Leather socks are pretty much automatically qualify for the most part, unless it's really thin or it's fake leather that just rips apart. Leather socks, for the most parts, you would be able to wipe on them without usually without inquiring into other conditions. The second type of socks that is there are thick socks made from durable material. Now, there are different measuring methods of what socks would fit in this category, but generally speaking, the socks that you would wear with dress shoes, so dress socks, those would not qualify as thick socks here. Also, those any type of thin socks which are transparent, or if you stretch it, you can see your skin. And you don't really need to stretch it that much to be able to see your skin. So those type of socks that are thin, that are transparent, they will not categorize under those socks that are permissible to use. Generally, you need thick socks. Now, you have certain wool socks that are thick that you can use. You have leather socks, obviously. You have certain companies that also make socks specifically for wudu. One of these companies, I think they're called like wudu gear or something like this, but there's many different brands that do this now, where they will make socks that qualify to be socks that you can wipe on. All right, so those are the different types of socks that you can wipe on. Now, there are certain conditions that must be met in order for you to be able to wipe on those socks, right? So this is number 23 that we are looking at. Number one, when you put on the socks, you have to be in a state of wudu. So if you don't have wudu and you wear these socks, then you're not allowed to wipe on them the next time you're trying to do wudu. You have to be in the state of wudu. And the idea behind this is that your foot is washed and your foot itself is in the state of wudu. So when you cover it with this pair of socks and your wudu breaks, you can now wipe on these socks. But if you wear the socks while you're not in the state of wudu, then your foot hasn't been washed for wudu at that point, and you would need to take off your socks. So condition number one is that when you put on these socks, you must be in the state of wudu. Number two, they must fully cover your feet, including the ankles. So they need to be able to cover your entire feet, from the top of the toes all the way, including your ankles. This shouldn't be below your ankles, because remember, when we wash our feet for wudu, it needs to be above your ankles. Now, these socks can go all the way to your knees. It doesn't matter how high it goes. It just can't be below your ankles, right? Or if it's borderline right at your ankles, that's risky. It should be above and including your ankles. So that's condition number two. One of the smaller details here is that it shouldn't have major rips, right? So if the entire bottom of your sock is missing, then obviously that's a major rip that will not count for this. However, if it's a minor rip or something like this, it'll be excused. Um, there are certain measurements of this as well. Just for an example purposes, your small um, pinky toe, right? The tip of your pinky toe, about 3, 4 of those, right? So if it's a small tear or rip, then it'll be excused. If it's too large, then it will be seen as your ankle or something below your ankle being uncovered. Number 3, they must not contain any material that is unlawful. So these socks cannot be made from pigskin, for example. That would be unlawful in itself, and you can't use it for wiping over it. Number 4, they must be void of any impurities. If the socks itself has urine or something like this on it, then obviously you cannot use it to clean yourself, and it doesn't meet the other conditions as well. When you're wearing the socks, you can't pray in socks with impurities on it. And number 5, they must not exceed the period of wiping. So the period prescribed or allowed for a person to wipe, which we will discuss right after this. If it exceeds that, then it automatically cancels your wudu, right? So when you wear these socks, you have to wear them in wudu, covering your entire feet, including your ankles. No major rips or tears on these socks. They shouldn't be made from any material that's unlawful, void of any impurities, and you're allowed to wear them for a certain time period or time frame before you have to take them off and wash your feet for wudu. The time period, which is number 24, is number 1 day and 1 night for a resident, non-traveler. So somebody who's considered a muqim, meaning a resident, a traveler will be determined same way that you determine your salah when you're traveling. If you're a muqim, and we're going to discuss the traveler for salah, which would be for this as well when we get to salah. But for now, just know that if you are not a traveler, if you're considered a resident, then 1 day and 1 night, so 24 hours. If you are a traveler, this time frame is extended. You now have 3 days and 3 nights, 72 hours. If you are if you're somebody who's traveling. Now, obviously, when you're traveling, things are made a little more easier because you are traveling, and depending on your situation, it might be difficult to do these things. It's not recommended to keep your socks on continuously for 3 days. As you'll see, taking the socks off break the wudu, so you need to do wudu on your feet at that point. All right, so let's talk about what parts of the socks should be wiped. Majority of the top portion of the socks should be wiped. This is what the sunnah is. So you would wet your hand. You're not washing your socks. You would wet your hand and wipe the top portion of your socks. Now you can use 3 fingers and just go from the toes, the top of the socks, and just wipe, going up and above and including the ankles. Now, if your socks are all the way to your knees, you don't need to wipe all the way to your knees, just going up above the ankles. The bottom of the sock is not to be washed. So it's not from the sunnah or anything to wash the bottom of the sock. Just wipe the top, both socks. You wipe the top, and that counts as washing your feet. So this is what this whole category is. This is what this whole discussion is, that you can actually wipe over your socks and it will count in wudu for washing your feet. Now, to give you an idea, I go and I'm about to make wudu. I wash my hand 3 times, say my Bismillah, clean my mouth 3 times, miswak, nose, face, arms, including my elbows, wipe over my hair, do my ears, right? Now, instead of washing my feet, I just wet my hand, take my fingers and wipe over my socks. And that's it. You have wudu. And these socks must be worn with the conditions that we just talked about for it to count. Now, we did say if you are a resident, you have 24 hours before you have to take the sock off and then wash your feet for wudu. So you can continuously keep wiping on the socks every time you need to do wudu for 24 hours. And if you're a traveler, for 72 hours. The question is, though, when does this time begin? Right? So you have different possibilities of when this time begins. Does it begin right when you wear the sock? Right? So, let's say it's 5 o'clock in the morning. I make wudu at 5. At 6 o'clock in the morning, I wore my socks. I am in the state of wudu. I wore my socks at 6 o'clock in the morning. At 7 o'clock, I break my wudu. At 8 o'clock, I make wudu and I wipe on the socks. Which one of these times does my wiping period begin? Is it 5 when I first made wudu? Is it 6 when I put on the socks? Is it 7 when my wudu broke with those socks on? Is it 8 when I first wiped on the sock? Which one of these is it? You can type it in the chat. I have one answer for 5. I have one answer for 8. So the answer is um, when you first wiped on the socks. So we said, I think we said 5 o'clock was when you made wudu, 6 o'clock was when you wore the socks, 7 o'clock was when you broke your wudu, 8 o'clock was when you first wiped on it. 8 o'clock is when your time frame begins, because this is when you actually start using the socks for wudu. So the moment you start using it and it counts for wudu, right? That's when it begins, your time frame. So the next day at 8, it will automatically expire. Say, for example, from 8, right when you wiped on him, you had wudu and you stayed up, and none of the nullifiers of wudu that we talked about yesterday applied to you, and you continuously had wudu. Automatically, the next day at that time, it'll expire because your time period, your 24 hours is up. And if you're a traveler, obviously you have 3 days and 3 nights. All right, so it begins right when you wipe on them the first time. Now, what breaks wudu for you when you wipe on your socks, right? So now you're wiping on your socks. There are some additional things that you have to be cautious about. Number one, if any part of your ankle um, or below gets uncovered. So pretty much if you take off the sock or a portion of the sock below your ankles, if that gets uncovered, your wudu breaks because now you uncovered it, right? So if your socks are up to your knees and you take all the way until the end of your calves, right? You're good to go so far. But if it goes below your ankles, that's when your wudu breaks because now it's considered taking off the socks. So it's been nullified at this point. Number two, if you take off your socks completely. So you did wudu, you wiped on it, and then now you are taking off your socks to pray. You lost your wudu, right? When you take off the socks, right? You need to keep your socks on for you to gain that wudu because you wiped on the socks. The socks now become a substitute for wiping or washing your feet. So that those socks have to remain on. If you take them off, it breaks your wudu. Number three, anything that would normally break your wudu, it breaks your wudu with the socks as well. So if I wiped on my socks at 8 o'clock in the example that we did, at 9 o'clock I used the bathroom, right? At 9 o'clock my wudu breaks because I used the bathroom. Now when I do wudu again, I can wipe on those socks, perfectly fine. Anything that requires you to do a wajib shower. Now this is something that we categorize under anything that breaks your wudu anyways, but just to re-emphasize this, anything that requires you to do a ghusl will require you to um, do will break your wudu here with the socks. And number five, when your period or time period expires, right? We said 24 hours, 1 day, 1 night for a resident, and we said 72 hours for a traveler. So this will nullify the time period will automatically nullify the wiping on the socks. Okay, so that covers wiping on the socks. Is there any questions regarding wiping on your socks? You can leave it in the chat box. If we have any now, I'll take some and then we'll do more at the end. All right, I don't see any coming in. All right, let's move on to wiping over a cast. So now this is in the situation where you broke an arm, right? Or you have some sort of cast on one of the body parts that require washing during wudu, right? If you have a cast that covers one of these areas that needs to be washed during wudu, you have to wipe over it with water. You don't wash it with water, you wipe over it. So you would, wet your hand and then you would just wipe over the area that has the cast on it. If for some reason you cannot wipe over it, let's say for example, it's a certain type of cast that cannot get wet or anything like this, then that area is excused. So you avoid that area and you continue washing the rest. Now let's say you can wipe over the cast. So the cast is on your arm, you can wipe over it. You would wash everything except for the cast area where you would just wipe over it. And you would continue doing wudu like normal. So it's a pretty simple rule. It's you wipe over the area you can wipe over. If you have a valid excuse and you cannot wipe over it, you just avoid the area, but you limit it. So if it's only half of it that you can't wipe over, you would avoid that half, but you would wipe over the other half. It's whatever you cannot absolutely do. And that pretty much covers the ruling for wiping over a cast. It's simple. You would do wudu as normal, just wipe over that area. The idea is to do the best you can, or to wudu to the best of your ability. Okay, let's get into issues dealing with showering. Let's start with, when is taking a shower wajib? So if you remember, we talked about the different categories, right? We talked about fard, wajib, sunnah. We talked about mubah, makruh. These are categories that every action is divided into. One of these categories is wajib, when it becomes mandatory. Just like we said, when is wudu mandatory? We said when you want to pray. You have to have wudu when you want to pray. In these times, right, require a person to take a shower. If you fall in one of these states, you have to take a shower in order for you to do anything that would require wudu, right? So if one of these things happen, then you would need to take a shower first, and that shower will count as wudu, and you can do wudu as well. And after that, you can do you can pray, you can do those things that require wudu, touching the Quran or whatnot, and some other things as well, as we'll talk about here. The first is sexual intercourse. So sexual intercourse will require a person to take a shower. A person doesn't need to take a shower immediately after, but they need to take a shower in order to pray, in order to do any of the things that require wudu or would require ghusl. So for example, if they're required to take a shower at night, but they end up doing it before Fajr, that's fine as well, as long as they do it the shower before Fajr. Number two, after one's menstrual period. So after completing the menstrual cycle, one is required to take a shower. Number three, death, right? So obviously you're not going to take a shower yourself, but somebody's going to wash your body. Number four, the release of sperm. This is without sexual intercourse as well. It requires you to take a shower. And number five, when someone converts to Islam, when somebody becomes a Muslim, they're required to take a shower. All of these times are when it is compulsory. It is wajib to take a shower. A person has to take a shower after these things happen. Now, what is the bare minimum that consists or that makes up a shower, right? When you say an Islamic shower or a wajib shower, what's the bare minimum actions that needs to be done? If you remember in wudu, we said it's four. For wudu, we said the entire face once, both arms including the elbows, wiping over your head, a portion of your head, and then both feet including your ankles. When it comes to the shower, there are three. There are three fara'id, three minimum things that you need to do. Number one, washing the entire body with water at least once. This includes your hair. So when there's a wajib shower required, you have to shower with your hair. I know sometimes some people shower by covering their hair. For a wajib shower, if it's a mandatory shower that you're taking, you need to wash your entire body, including your hair, once with water. Number two, cleaning your mouth. Number three, cleaning your nose, right? So pretty simple. Your entire body has to be washed with water once, and then your mouth and nose. Now, what's recommended while taking a shower? So those three things were the basic minimums. If you do that, your shower you get a check. You're good to go on the shower. However, if you want to do a complete sunnah shower, you should wash your hair thoroughly. Maybe use shampoo or whatever we can use nowadays to clean your hair thoroughly. Number two, perform full wudu in that shower. And number three, performing the fard acts of shower. So this is at any time you're taking a shower, you decide, I'm going to take a shower before Jum'ah, which is sunnah to do. You take a shower, wet your entire body, your mouth, your nose, clean that. You do wudu in that shower. This would be a complete shower. You clean your hair thoroughly. This is complete. But if I'm required to take a shower, I can do the bare minimum, which is washing the entire body once, your nose and mouth, cleaning those two, and you're good to go for the minimum. All right. Let's go to number 32. When is taking a shower sunnah? So these are times when it is a sunnah to take a shower. It's not mandatory. So if you show up to these things without taking a shower, your acts of worship will be valid as long as you have wudu for most of these. However, it is sunnah. It's from the prophetic tradition to take a shower at these times. Number one, every Friday before Jum'ah prayer. There is a certain discussion on whether the sunnah is to take a shower on Jum'ah before the Jum'ah prayer, meaning any time on Jum'ah day, or closer to Jum'ah, Salat al-Jum'ah meaning. So, maybe like an hour or two before Salat al-Jum'ah. Or anytime, the other opinion is anytime after Maghrib on Thursday would be considered Friday, and it'll count as your Jum'ah shower. But either way, whichever one you do, just make the intention that you are doing this out of the sunnah for Salat al-Jum'ah, and you'll get the reward for it. On the day of Eid, this is number 2, right? It is sunnah. When putting on the ihram. Number 4, when washing or after washing the deceased. So if you do janazah, if you're washing the body of a janazah, it is a sunnah for you to take a shower afterwards as well. And number 5, anytime you feel dirty or unpleasant. It is from the sunnah to constantly be up to date with your hygiene, with your cleanliness. Anytime you feel dirty or unpleasant, if you do it with the right intention, you can get reward for that shower. That on the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, I'm trying to, keep up with being clean, and you'll get rewarded for that, inshallah. All right. What things can you not do when showering is compulsory on you? Right. So number 1, we already said, or I wrote as number 2 here, that anything that requires you to, anything that you need wudu to do, if you need a wajib shower, if shower is compulsory upon you, you cannot do those actions. So prayer, touching the Quran, all of those things you can't do if you need a shower. But another thing is sit and spend time in the masjid. Sitting and spending time in the masjid. You cannot do if you need a wajib shower. Now, if a person requires a wajib shower and just needs to grab something from the masjid very quickly, forgot their phone or something like this, they can go do that. But you shouldn't spend time or sit. The idea is you can pass through the masjid if it's in the way. Some places the masjid has a courtyard and people use it as a shortcut kind of thing. Most of our masajid aren't really like that anymore, at least here in the US. But ideally, spending time or sitting in the masjid is not to be done when you're required to take a shower. All right. Any questions regarding the ghusl? Let me see. There's some questions down here. Mr. Weber, can you? So the video is recorded on YouTube. If you go to Rawak Institute's YouTube channel, you'll find it on there. So you can just watch that portion that you missed, no problem. I think somebody wrote that as well. All right. So what is tayammum? This is the next issue. We're going to talk about tayammum. Number 1, the word tayammum means intention, right? It means intention. And tayammum itself is a substitute for wudu, which allows you to do those things that wudu allows you to do, right? So tayammum, the word itself means intention, to intend something. And tayammum, the ritual acts of tayammum is a substitute for wudu. So in the situation where you cannot make wudu for various valid reasons that we'll talk about, you're allowed to do this act called tayammum. And this will, in turn, allow you to do those things that wudu allows you to do. So let's get into what tayammum is. If we can scroll up. All right, number 35. When are you allowed to do tayammum? So these are the times that a person can do tayammum. Number one, when there is no water available or access to it. So when you have, um, let's say you're out in the middle of nowhere and there's no water available. That falls squarely under this, that there is no water available. Or access to it. So there is water available, but you can't get to it for some reason. Let's say all the pipes in the entire town stop working for some reason. You can't get to it, but the water is there. It's underground. It's in the reservoir, whatever it may be. But you don't have access to it. So that's number one, that there's no water available, or you don't get access to it. Number two, when there is only enough water to drink. So you're on a trip or you're camping or you're outdoors and there's only a water bottle or something like this. Obviously, you shouldn't use that to do wudu, especially if you're not certain whether you'll get more water or not, drinkable water. So in that case, you can resort to tayammum as well. Number three, when you cannot use water because of a medical condition or a situation. Let's say somebody is in a certain situation where they can't put water on their skin for a week or two, whatever it may be. In those cases, they can resort to tayammum. And then, or a situation, you cannot use water because of a situation. There are, not that we're going to get into, but there are certain times where a person's allowed to do tayammum. Um, certain circumstances during Hajj and things like this where the access becomes really difficult, but that's a very different discussion. Again, for the most part, ours will be if you don't have access to the water, you can do tayammum. What are the conditions of tayammum? Number one, Islam, the person has to be Muslim. Number two, sanity, right? This is a reoccurring condition, Islam and sanity. And number three, puberty, also a reoccurring condition. Number four is a valid reason. So if you don't have a valid reason, if there's water right there in your house, you can't go do tayammum. If you can't use the water for a medical condition, then you have a valid reason. So anytime you have a valid reason, you can do tayammum. If you don't have a valid reason, you don't meet the conditions for you to be able to do tayammum. What is it that you can use to do tayammum? Without going into an exhaustive list, as a very brief thing, clean dirt, dust, or earth. These are things that you can use to do tayammum. Now, the idea isn't to rub the dirt on your face. That's not the idea, as we'll see. The idea is to do this ritualistic act. It's more of a ritual. It's not really, wudu in a sense is cleaning as well. When you wash your face with water, you're cleaning your face. With tayammum, you're not really trying to rub the dirt on your face. It's more of a ritualistic act in order for you to do those prayers and things like this, because you didn't have access to water. So there are three steps to wudu, to tayammum. There are three steps to tayammum. Number one, intention. Tayammum is not done without intention. Unlike wudu. Remember in wudu, we said there are four fard of wudu. None of them are intention. Tayammum requires intention. The word itself means to intend something. You need to be aware that there is no water. That's why you're doing this act that you're about to do. Then, number two, you strike both of your hands. I only have one of my hands available. You strike both of your hands on that dirt or earth. You strike it, right? Obviously, don't hit it too hard. You don't want to hurt your hands or anything like this. Just, whatever you're comfortable with. Strike your hands on that earth, right? Then you can go like this or hit your hands together. You don't want to clean it off like that, but you want to get rid of the loose dirt. And then you wipe your face, right? So let's see if I could do this, right? So I strike my hands and then I wipe my face once. Strike my hands again, your arms, including your elbows, both of them. And that's it. You have tayammum. So you want to go in like this and do the back side as well of your arms. And that's it. There's no other part to it. You don't continue like the rest of wudu. You don't wipe your hair. You don't do your feet. None of that. Just your face and both of your arms, including your elbows. So those three steps, and then you have tayammum. Tayammum actually takes 30 seconds to do. Intention, strike your hands, face. Intention, you have intention all the way throughout. Strike your hands again, both of your arms, and you have tayammum. Again, it's more of a ritualistic act that you are doing. All right, what nullifies or breaks your tayammum? All right, so anything that breaks your wudu or requires a compulsory shower would break your tayammum. Tayammum is a substitute for wudu. Anything that breaks wudu breaks tayammum. That's a pretty simple rule. Now, number two is, remember, we're doing tayammum for a valid reason. When your valid reason for tayammum is no longer present, it breaks your tayammum. So if I did tayammum because the water wasn't working, so let's say I did tayammum, right? The water's not working. I prayed salat al-dhuhr, then the water starts working. For asr, I have to do wudu, right? For asr, I will have to do wudu because I did tayammum for a valid reason. My valid reason is no longer present. Therefore, my tayammum is broken. So I would have to do wudu for asr in this example. All right. Is there anything else if we scroll down? I think that's it, right? Okay, that's it. So that actually concludes for us the Tahara portion of this class. What I will do, inshallah, is you can review the YouTube videos. Tomorrow we will have a short quiz. The way it will work, it'll be a very short Zoom quiz. So you just log on to Zoom as you would do normally for class at 6 p.m. The quiz would be up. Just take the quiz on Zoom. It should be about 10 questions or so. Once you do that, at about 6:20, 6:20, we will go over the quiz, and that will end for us this entire session. So the quiz is very short. It shouldn't take you 10 minutes. We'll do 20 minutes to be safe. If you want, we can do 15 minutes, or 6:20 is a safe bet. Let's do 6:20. At 6:20, we'll review the quiz. We'll do any Q&A that people have. And then, inshallah, on Monday, we will begin our fiqh intensive for salah. So we'll do the same thing we did with tahara for salah. So let's end the live stream and let's do some Q&A, inshallah. I know that somebody asked about the live stream. Let me see if I can get you a link. No, it's not letting me get a link right now. But if you just go to Rawak Institute on YouTube, click on videos, and you'll see this would be the latest one. Oh, somebody sent it. Jazakallah khair. That you can catch the wiping on socks there. Again, tomorrow we'll do the quiz, and then we'll do Q&A. So once you watch that wiping on socks part, if somebody didn't understand it, or if there's a portion or something about it that you don't understand, tomorrow is a very good time for this discussion, inshallah. So we can break it down and we can move forward into next week by fully understanding wiping on socks and anything that we might not understand from Tahara. Like I said, this is an entry-level fiqh intensive. As you probably witnessed in the last 4 days, it is a lot of information, but it's still rudimentary. It's still beginner level. It's still kind of the basics of Tahara. We're not going into very much detail yet. And as I said, maybe for the fall or towards the winter, we will, inshallah, go through an entire fiqh book. We'll probably choose one of the contemporary fiqh books or a traditional fiqh book and go through ibadat, or at least tahara and stuff. So we'll get a little more detail. It'll still be basic, but it will get a little more detail than what we did here. So inshallah, let's go through some questions. Arthur, you can end the live stream from the top left of the screen.